left wing of the Second International was led by Lenin and Rosa Luxemburg. And Lenin was the leader of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, which eventually split into the Mensheviks and the Bolsheviks. And Rosa Luxemburg was a leader of the German Social Democratic Party, who was actually Polish-born herself and was a trade union organizer. And Lenin's position, which he put forward in a book called What Is to Be Done, was that an entirely different organization was needed to bring about a revolution. That in order to bring about the revolution, you needed to have what he called a Vanguard Party, not a mass party. Edward Bernstein was saying we should just have this, this party, everyone's invited, and we'll put on it, we're for socialism, anyone can join, have a million different factions, and we all get along, and it's a lot of fun, and, we all vote for socialism, and, life goes on, the liberal bourgeoisie are invited, it's a fun game. Lenin talked about the need for a party that was highly disciplined and highly coordinated its activities and was united. He had the concept of what was called democratic centralism, which meant that there's debate and discussion about what the party policies are going to be, but once a decision is made and once a vote is taken, then everyone in the party follows the decision that's made. If there's a vote to have a strike in one area, some members of the party feel that the strike isn't necessary, other members of the party are for the strike, and they debate and they discuss it and they take the vote. When the strike happens, you all go out on strike. It's not, well, I disagreed with the strike originally and I don't do it. No, this was going to be a highly disciplined organization. It was going to coordinate their activities. And it wasn't just an organization, for anybody. It was the idea of the Leninist concept of the Vanguard Party was that it would coordinate its activities, and in addition to that, it would be the Vanguard Party. It would be the professional revolutionaries, people who devoted every moment of their life to revolution. Lenin talked about how every university student should not be a member of the party. Now that doesn't mean they shouldn't be a member of the mass movement and a member of this revolutionary struggle, but they should ultimately party membership is reserved for people who are extremely devoted, and in addition to that are willing to follow party discipline. Lenin talked about the need to coordinate the message that if the party position is that well, I guess this is back then, that the Kaiser in Germany is bad. You can't have some members of the party writing in their newspaper the Kaiser in Germany is good, right? The idea is in this highly disciplined organization, it's made up of people who are willing to submit to the party line that the Kaiser in Germany is bad because that's what's said, and keep the debate internal or else form another organization. And of course the anger that was raised against that was by the Bernstein faction of the Second International was they said, well, they believed in freedom of criticism. They called it freedom of criticism, and the freedom to criticize publicly your disagreements with the party. And what Lenin said is, he said, of course you have the freedom of criticism and freedom of speech and all that. However, if we're building an organization that's trying to bring down capitalism, we have freedom of association. And we have the right to associate and have the association of our organization based on certain bylaws, just like the UAW or the Teamsters or the Elks Club or the Bowling League. They all have an agreement when you join the group, and that was Lenin's concept, is that if you're going to join a vanguard organization of professional revolutionaries, you should be willing to work with the other revolutionaries to coordinate the activities. You need to not have a debating society. Revolutionary organizations are not debating societies. They're organizations that are intent on bringing down capitalism, ultimately. And yes, especially in Russia, where Lenin was, they were living under the Tsar, and it was totally illegal to advocate socialism, revolution, or even atheism was illegal to preach. And so of course they had entire underground apparatus, people having fake names and all that stuff that some groups in the U.S. will do now, but it's really not. I mean, we're not in that kind of situation. But there was very strict discipline, and there were also, they would have the second level and the people that are underground, and because I mean they were fighting for their lives essentially. I mean it was an autocratic czarist state ultimately. But what Lenin talked about in What Is to Be Done was the concept that the Vanguard Party.
Well, we had that here too.
What?
My old man was underground for 2 years before they killed him. So.
Yeah, I mean, and there have been times in U.S. history. I mean, the Communist Party, when it was formed in the early 1920s, was an underground organization. It was illegal. So, I mean, yes, we do have that. At this point, in the U.S., it's not necessary. But then there were the FBI raids on last Friday.
Yeah.
What happened?
The FBI raided the homes of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization's leaders. and took 30 boxes out of their stuff. It was what they call a fishing expedition, where they take all the stuff out of their place and they spend years, going through the names of people and calling, and they've all been called before a grand jury, and they're going to have to answer questions about their organization and all that. And they're trying to say they have links with international terrorism.
Did they have a search warrant, or was it?
Yes, they had a warrant, and it was a warrant from the FBI, and it was on the grounds that supposedly that Freedom Road Socialist Organization, this is so ridiculous because it's such a small group, I don't know how they could possibly do it, was funding the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Hamas, and the Federation of Armed Revolutionaries of Colombia. So that's kind of, that's kind of a ridiculous.
And at the same, even as we speak, Obama is now finagling to get the right to do the same kind of fishing expedition in everybody's internet transactions to find whatever they might and prosecute you on that basis.
Yeah,
and this is without warrant or cause. That's the kind of premise we're looking for now.
And I mean that's the thing. Trotsky pointed it out in his book Communism and Terrorism that that the repression of individual liberty in any society, whether it's capitalist, feudal, socialist, or whatnot, usually it corresponds almost directly to how threatened the ruling elites feel.
Yeah.
If the ruling elites feel extremely threatened, freedom of speech and all that is limited. However, if the ruling elites feel comfortable, they'll let you stand and scream about overthrowing them all day because they don't have any fear that it's actually going to happen. Ultimately, and that's the question. So, in What Is to Be Done, Lenin talked about the need for a vanguard party to be the party that that fights against spontaneity. That people naturally, he said, will rise up when they're oppressed, when they're suffering. Whether it's they rise up against the low wages or criminal abuse of the people, massacres, pogroms. He named all kinds of things. People will naturally rise up against them. But without a group of revolutionaries devoted to turning that struggle into a struggle against the system, that kind of struggle will eventually just get under the wing of one or another leader of the capitalists, and eventually it'll go nowhere. And the idea is, the Vanguard Party is to lead these spontaneous struggles and to transform them into struggles against capitalism and build a new center of workers' power that can transfer the struggle away from the hands of spontaneity, which eventually leads to bourgeoisie. And he talked about the need of the Vanguard Party to turn every spark into a conflagration, meaning that a spark will pop up here, and the Vanguard Party's job, he called about having a billows. A spark pops up and you blow it up into something big. You make it into something that can actually make a difference, and you give it the leadership that won't let it fizzle out. You give it leadership that'll make it actually confront the system, because naturally people aren't going to do that. He said the highest, on their own, without any education or training and all that, the highest that people can achieve is what he called trade union consciousness. People generally want higher wages, but they don't understand why they want higher wages or why they won't get them. They understand, we just need to appeal to get higher wages. But if a party can come in and provide the leadership and make it a confrontation against the system, it's much more likely to succeed, and it's much more likely to be bigger and win a lot more victories. You look through even the history of this country. When was this the most successful period of union history? Was when the CIO was led by communists, socialists that were pushing it, further. The Wobblies were a revolutionary organization that had the understanding that capitalism, was the root cause. And